And what is up, everyone? I am Joe DeHoyos. I am host of Beyond the Woodline. Before we get the show started, I always like to do my little spiel here about me, what I do, the group that I'm a part of. For those of you who may know, I or may not know, um, the executive director for the JRG, which is the Jevning Research Group, created and founded by William Jevning. He's been in the field for over 40 years. I bet closer to 50 years now. But yeah, he has teams all over the country. We have teams in Washington, Oregon, West Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, Michigan, Florida, Tennessee, New York State, Minnesota, and of course here in Texas. Uh, if you guys are interested in helping out, doing some research or doing some investigation, finding witnesses, getting out into the field, hit me up. Let me know. I'm not a hard guy to find. I'm on Facebook, Joe DeHoyos, or you can find me at Beyond the Woodline on YouTube, even on Facebook, or hit me up at beyond.woodline@gmail.com. And you don't have to necessarily get out to the field. We don't require anyone to get out into the field a certain amount of times ever. If you can, great. If you can't, we understand that too. Not everybody can. Not everybody wants to. You can do your research from behind your laptop, on your phone. You can find witnesses. You can find spots. If you have suggestions on techniques, let us know. We're always open and to hearing other people's ideas and suggestions. So with all that being said, I have with me today the Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Team. How you doing, guys?
Good.
Good.
Good. Yeah. So there's Marie, Ruby, Mike, and Chris.
Yes.
And you guys, just by the name of your group, I'm assuming you guys are in Florida, right?
No.
Yes. Yes. The Mid
No.
Florida Bigfoot Research Group are in Central Florida, on the West Coast and around Tampa area.
Okay, cool.
hmm
It's a nice area.
hmm
So what got you guys started into this crazy field? And Marie, if you want to go first, go first.
Sure. Well, I've been a paranormal investigator for over 30 years. And so it all started out with ghost hunting, and then it evolved into UFOs and aliens kind of thing. Used to do sky watches all the time, blah blah blah. And then because some of my friends were in the Bigfoot, it just evolved into I was getting interested in Bigfooting, going out Bigfooting, doing research, because I started to notice there were like similarities between the three. You got orbs in all three of those things. You've got, shadow figures. You've got just crazy things. So there were similarities, and that was very interesting to me. And so what really got me hooked was about for almost 5 years ago. I was camping on a camping trip in the Ocala National Forest on the coldest night of the year, like in January sometime. And there was about 12 of us, and we were camping. And at 1:30 in the morning, I was standing off to the side with another friend of mine, researcher, and another gentleman. And all of a sudden, we heard this huge vocalization, long, lengthy howl. You would compare it to the classic Ohio call vocalization, and that's what we heard. And we just like looked at each other. And we're like, "Oh my god!" And it was maybe like a quarter mile away, if I was to guess. Probably in an area where there were two lakes next to each other. So that got me hooked. Plus, found some strange structures and stuff in the forest as well, and that was it. I was like, oh my god, I want to be the one to prove that we have Bigfoots in Florida and skunk apes. So then I started to post all my stuff on my personal page on Facebook. All the stuff I was finding out in the woods. I was going out all the time. And it just wasn't the right place for it because I had like three friends who were interested in Bigfooting at the time. And so then I looked around Facebook trying to find some research groups in Florida, and I couldn't find any. So it was then that I decided to start the Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group, and it has just evolved into this great, wonderful group. I'm just so grateful for everybody who's a part of group, all the members, and I really encourage people who are into research, actual going out in the field research. And so it was through the group that I met Mike, Ruby, and Chris. And we go out every single weekend. You know, if we can't all four go out together, then Ruby and I will go out, or I'll go out by myself, or Chris will go out by himself, whatever. We always have somebody out in the field every single weekend doing research. So it's been an amazing journey. I absolutely love it, and I love these guys. You know, this is the best team ever, and
Right.
you know, we're like a big family. We love each other. We make fun of each other. You know, we're out in the field. If Chris gets stuck in mud, we're like, woohoo, we're making fun of him. I wish I'd have caught it on video, you know. Um,
Or Marie falls down.
or I fall down or trip, and, you know, same thing. And, but no, we're very serious, dedicated Bigfoot and skunk ape researchers in Florida. So,
Yeah. Well, I can certainly relate to falling down and getting stuck in the mud because I've done that.
we've all done that.
The first time when I went out with someone, his name was Lupe, and I went out with him, and we were hiking, and man, I busted my ass in front of him. I was so embarrassed. He was like a big time researcher, and he still, and so like now when I tell that story, I tell everybody that Lupe pushed me down.
Oh, is that it?
I snapped my rotator cuff in half out in the field.
Oh, yes. Mhm. Tell them that story.
We'll get to there. We'll get to that
Yeah.
story later.
Yeah.
What about you, Ruby? What got you into this strange little field?
Well, I after I started watching YouTubes and learning more about Bigfoot. I had always thought they were only in the Pacific Northwest. I grew up in Tampa and on the east coast of Florida because my dad was at NASA, so we were back and forth. But there in between Tampa and Melbourne, because we lived in Melbourne, there's a little town called Holopole that was nothing but a little gas station and a few houses, and there was a reported sighting there, and I just thought that was so amazing because how could it have gotten this far? So it was on somebody's carport. They heard some rustling, and this is very, very country. I mean, this is cow country. You had the Deseret Ranch, and nothing. Of course, now it's all built up, but this is before Disney, and it's closer to where Disney is now. But they heard something. They went out on their back, out on the carport, and they saw this Bigfoot, skunk ape, whatever, on their back porch that was pilfering through things, and they it saw him, and the guy he was startled, and it picked up a tire and threw at him, and it took off. And so I just, oh my gosh. But then as I started listening to all these encounters and started listening to these different YouTubes, I started thinking about things that have happened in my life. And I think I've been having encounters my entire life. I've had, from on Tampa side to Melbourne side, because we always lived out in the country anyway. And I would say my sighting, I now think pretty sure it was a sighting. I was camping in the Green Swamp here with a horse club I was in. And I had gone out. My horse was acting up, so I had taken him out by himself. We just, me and the horse, went out for a little ride. When I got back, there was somebody that had just gotten there, and they wanted to go for a ride since I was saddled up. We went off, but I didn't want to go this way I had gone. I said, well, let's go this opposite way. And we went, and it was starting to get dark. And I thought, well, instead of backtracking, why don't we try and figure out will cut in and maybe come in through the backside of the camp and just see a little different. And that's what we started to do. And I calculated where I thought it was, and we started to go. And there was a little hill, and it was like the arched trees, but within the arch, it was total dark. And I just turned to the guy that was riding with me, and I said, it's getting really dark fast. Going to ask him, do you want to turn around or should we proceed on? Right when I turned around to talk to him, this big owl just swooped down and went right in between the two horses, right over my horse's butt, right in between the two horses, into the tree right here. And I was so astounded. I've never had something like that happen. That was so cool. And then my horse just stopped. And when my horse stopped, I spun around, and that archway was now only half lit. And I could see something down lower with long hair. Looked like probably about 4-inch dark hair, but it was shadowed. So I don't know if it had tint of red. It was just all dark to me. And then as I was trying to figure out what it was, because I knew it wasn't a hog. I have those all around me. I'd never seen a bear in the wild. I thought, well, maybe it's a bear. What is that? And then it kind of spider walked sideways behind and then disappeared, from that arch. And just the way it moved, it's just stuck with me all this time. And I was like, I have no idea what that was, because I knew it didn't move like a bear would move, but when I knew it wasn't a pig, I didn't know what it was. Now I think it was probably watching us, because it was the field where it's the vantage point. There was a field, and then when we were camping, and it was probably been watching us, because we would hear stuff, but never equated it to possibly, a Bigfoot. And so I started, all these things started happening, or, come into my mind, even from when I was a little kid, and all these things. And then I started looking on Facebook, and I saw Marie's group, and they had posted pictures that they had taken not a mile from my house, their areas they were researching in, and all these structures and different things. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I walk there, that's my walking, route. So I sought them out, and here we are.
Yeah, dude, that's really kind of a creepy story, actually.
I never felt any fear or anything.
Right,
I've never felt any, and even the things that would happen to me in the childhood. The only thing that was startling was to my sister, and we lived in a house that was kind of sloped down to a pond, and she was in because it's a household of girls except my dad. There's 5 girls, my mom and my dad. So there's always the fight for the bathroom to do your makeups and stuff. So I had one bathroom. She was in their bathroom, and theirs had a window in it. And she was putting on her makeup, and she saw something, and the reflection, there was a big hairy man looking in the window. And we always equated it to the crazy surfer guy down the road. We lived at the dead end of a long dirt road, and all these things that would happen to us, when we would tell my dad, he would always just say, he goes, if anything was out there, the dogs would bark, and write it off. But the dogs never barked, but there was something out there. But
right.
So, but now that scared her, but I've never felt fear.
Do you figure out how tall it would be to that window? Like
if I stood up, well, I can't see into it. If I went out there and looked, I couldn't see it. The windowsill came, and I'm about 5'6", so it probably had to be at least 7.5, 8.
Yeah.
To have the whole head and shoulders showing in the window, unless it's somebody on a ladder. But the dogs would have barked, right?
Yeah, surfer dude.
Surfer dude, the crazy surfer dude.
Otherwise known as Bigfoot.
What about you, Mike? What got you involved in this?
Well, my name is Mike Aguilar. I'm born and raised in Florida, just outside of Tampa, just north of Tampa, Pasco County, pretty much my whole life. I was with one of my best friends, and I was very much a non-believer and never really thought about it too much, never put too much thought into it until one day about 8 years ago, me and my best friend were going fishing about probably about 6:15 in the morning and 6:30, somewhere around there, and the sun was just starting to come out as it was starting to peek up over the trees. And in Homosassa, Florida, we were going back there just to have a nice little normal day. And I'm driving back through the back country, this little back winding roads. And there's one part of the road that has 3 curves to it. And as you go around one curve, you can see up ahead almost 2 curves up. And it was probably about 80 yards up ahead of me. Here comes this big man walking across the road. And he looked huge. He was a huge guy walking onto the road as I was going around the curve. And he walked right into the light that was just starting to cut across the road. And when he did, I could see all the hair follicles. And I could see his arms were swinging down past his knees. And he was gigantic. He was huge. Not super thick, just tall, real tall, but still pretty girthy. But I watched him walk right in front of my truck. And when he hit that light, he went from a shadow to a reddish brown, hairy, upright creature walking across the road. And it did something to me. I saw what I wasn't supposed to see, and it changed me for life. And I just started doing my own research and started watching documentaries and started getting into it because I had to prove to my best friend that I wasn't crazy, because he thought I was definitely had lost my mind because he didn't see it. He just happened to not look at the right time, and I just happened to see it perfect. But I got out of the truck, tried to find anything. I couldn't find nothing. I've been back to the spot and never found anything there, but I know what I saw, and that changed my whole life forever.
So when you saw this, did it register in your brain, or how long did it take you to register what you saw?
It really registered when he said, "What'd you see?" I said, "I just saw an animal or something. I thought it was a guy, but it was walking, and it walked across the road." And he said, "An animal that just walked across the road. What, do you think you saw Bigfoot or something?" And I looked at him. And he started laughing. And he's like, "You think you saw Bigfoot?" I said, "I don't know what I just saw, but it just walked across the road, and it was huge." And that was it. That was where I started digging my rabbit hole.
Okay. And where does he sit on the fence now?
He's gone out with me a couple times and has been freaked out a little bit. He's a hunter. He's a very avid hunter, and he's got that very avid hunter mentality where I've been in the woods a million times. I've never seen anything, so I don't know if something could really be out there. And I was like, well, I've been out in the woods a million times too, and I've never seen something until that day.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. My best friend is the same way. He doesn't believe in stuff, but he'll entertain me, and this guy, he's a hunter from the time he was a baby, man, So he's been he's hunted all over Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas. So he's hunted quite a few places, and he's like, I never saw anything, I never heard anything, But one day I hope he calls me up and crying, maybe pee on his pants a little bit.
Just
It'll
a little
change,
bit.
changes your life forever, that's for sure.
It does.
What about you, Chris? What got you involved in all this stuff?
That guy. I became neighbors with Mike, and thought he was some crazy dude. He was talking about Sasquatch, and he started showing me stuff, footprints and pictures, and just telling me stories about stuff. So I got brave enough one day because I'm like, you're hearing all this crazy stuff out there, and I mean, what in your right mind would you do that? Why would you go out in the middle of the woods, and especially at nighttime, because you go at night? I thought he was crazy. Now I do it, but
Here we go. Here we are.
yeah. So I fell down the rabbit hole because when you go out there, you start seeing things that don't make sense, and the more things you see and hear, it just kind of, again, the mystery of it, wondering why. There's definitely things you can't explain when you find them. When you're really looking out in the woods, you'll find stuff. But yeah, just kind of fell into it. Here I am. Been doing it for about a year now, I think.
Maybe a year, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's the newest member of our team, and he started out as a skeptic, but I think he's pretty much a believer now. So
Yeah,
I'm,
well, there's
I'm
nothing
a
wrong with
bit-
being a skeptic.
yeah, I mean, it's important to kind of keep things in even a scientific matter.
Yeah.
We always look at, could this be natural? Could this happen by itself? We're not going to assume everything's Bigfoot. In my mind,
Right.
Right.
that's the way I always approach anything, anyways. But you're trying to prove something nobody's ever proved, really, but yet we kind of have. At the same time, there's so much evidence everywhere that just speaks volumes that it's there. We just don't know and don't understand.
Mhm.
So here I am, trying to figure it out, like the rest of us.
Yeah, and you know what I like about you guys, that you guys, you talk about how you guys are basically family, and that's the way I feel with my group of guys that I go out with. They're family. I've made more friends in this field than I probably had in my own personal life, and the friendships that I've made and the bonds that I've created are just as strong as anything else. And they'll be my friends till the day I die.
Absolutely.
Very cool.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
we have a good time when we go out for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. And like one of my better friends in the field, he was pretty much a non-believer until he had this encounter, but almost 3 years ago, and now I can't keep him out of the wood.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. He went from being like really, really scared, and I won't say his name. He's pretty popular now, but we went from like being really, really scared and really timid, and every little crack he would hear, every little snap, man, his head was on a swivel out there, and we go to his area where he had his encounter, and he was like white knuckling that steering wheel. He gets real close to that place, and now he's so much better, and but yeah, he's a good dude. He's a good dude. But so what is a skunk ape?
Hmm. Oh, um, you know, so we always, my team, we do believe that we have both creatures here in Florida. And the reason why we say that is because there's differences um, between the sighting reports, the prints that are found, et cetera, et cetera. But so in Florida, you've got like a couple tropical zones. From North Florida down to Central Florida, it's a subtropical zone. And then when you get around Bradenton, Sarasota, it changes to a tropical zone. And it's interesting because Sarasota is where Mayaca State Park is. And that's a lot of skunk ape reports have been there, as well as all the way down south, like to the Everglades. So anyway, the based upon the sighting reports, things that we've read, things we've heard about, the differences are, so a skunk ape is a smaller creature. It's usually 5 to 7 feet tall. It's very lean in stature, and it has 4 toes and not 5 toes. And so, of course, a Bigfoot, in Florida, the reports are 6 to 9 feet tall, a bigger creature, a little more hairier, with 5 toes. So, and of course, a skunk ape too. You've got people have reported very stinky. They're very smelly, really disgusting, like a wet dog rolled around in something kind of smell, which is how it basically got its name, the skunk ape. So there seems to be distinct differences between the reports. So to us, that means there's probably two different creatures, two different kinds of creatures, not two creatures. So it's pretty interesting. One of our associate team members, Dr. Bill Hewitt, he casted a 4-toe print that was down in the Everglades around Bear Island. And most people don't believe it, but it's definitely a 4-toed print, and it has a huge big toe. And fascinating stuff. But and he just recently had an encounter down by the Everglades, by Lake Okeechobee, and it was just 2 weeks ago, where him and another friend who's a friend of ours. They were in his. It was nighttime around 9:00, 9:08 p.m. And they were in their Suburban, and they had like a night vision camera facing outside of their front window of the vehicle because they're getting away from the mosquitoes and it was hot as could be. So they were in the Suburban with the air conditioning going with the night vision camera facing out the front window. So they're sitting there and they're just watching, and all of a sudden something slams his window, Bill's window. He was in the driver's seat. So it wham, something hit the window. It scared the daylights out of him. He like jumped out of his seat. And they're like, what the heck was that? And then a few, maybe 10, 15 seconds later, it happened on the passenger side. Same thing. And it just freaked him out. It scared them to death because they couldn't see anything. They're in a vehicle with instrument lights on. So they can't see out, but whatever is outside can see in because they can, you can see the glowing of the lights from the instrument panel. And so the next day when I was talking to them, because they called me and told me about it, and I said, there's got to be fingerprints. There's got to be something there. And they're like, no, we looked. We can't find any fingerprints. And so what happened was I talked to them for like over an hour, and it was around sunset, and I hung up with them. They called me 10 minutes later and they said, guess what? He said, because we were talking to you on the phone, the sun was at the right angle that it reflected off his vehicle that had dust on it and stuff. And sure enough, there's fingerprints. There's like handprints, fingerprints, where on both sides. And by the rear tire on the driver's side, there's like a finger drag near the tire, five fingers. And so seems like as it was walking around the vehicle, it touched the vehicle as it was walking around it. And it slammed their window, scared the daylights out of them. But what an incredible encounter that was.
And that happened real close to where the 168 was
Yes.
filmed.
Yes, Gary Arnold and Mark Zasky used to do the 168, which was a full 168-hour investigation. And but Gary Arnold died in a tragic truck accident. And so we went there in December and did our own little mini 168, and which was great. And we plan on doing something like that again this year. But it's in the same area, exact same place. So that's really exciting.
We got gifted a mushroom that night.
Yes. So when we did that mini 168, we were at one of the campgrounds at night. We all had thermal cameras, night vision cameras, audio recorders. We were all under a pavilion, picnic pavilion, and we were facing different directions. And so Mike had just gotten there, and he had some little mini Reese's peanut butter cups. And he was like, what the heck? I'm just going to put them on this bench that was, how far away is the bench, Mike?
Probably about 30 yards, about 30 yards from where the pavilion was.
Yeah. So he put down 5 little mini Reese's peanut butter cups. And so didn't think anything of it. He just did it, Next day, we come back, check out the area, look around. And the peanut butter cups are all gone, but there's a mushroom. Something left a big mushroom in its place of where the peanut butter cups were. So
You should have made some tea with that thing.
So that was pretty exciting. That was
maybe they were telling us a way to see them. You eat the mushroom and you'll see them.
Yeah, right.
Didn't it have a bite? It had a bite out of the mushroom too, didn't it?
Little nibbles all over it.
Little nibbles.
Yeah, we think squirrels or something got to it before we got there.
Yeah, right, probably. But a mushroom, I mean, Okay, so maybe
Exactly where.
yeah, who brings a mushroom in its place?
The
You know,
psychedelic kind.
not a hog, not a bear.
And there was no one else out there.
No one.
We had the
were
whole
the only
camp. We had
people
the
out.
whole thing to ourselves.
Yeah, we had the whole place to ourselves. So pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, I've been out in places where there's nobody else at, and we've been the only ones there, and had strange noises and whoops and knocks and stuff. Like
Mhm.
we're the only ones out here, right? We had um, I had set out a recorder. We were out camping, and some people pulled up. I was like, man, I really don't like when people pull up, but they can camp wherever they want to camp too, I guess. And man, we started hearing these howls and these screams and these weird ass vocals. And I'm like, dude, I got my recorder back there, so it's going.
Oh, that's good.
And those people, they didn't park very far from our recorder, so I was kind of mad. But when I went back to listen to the recorder, and you could hear the guys going, "Man, have you ever heard that before?" It was so funny. Have you ever heard that before? Yeah. So, so what's the like? Do you have any issues ever with game wardens out in that area when you're out doing your thing? Have you ever been approached?
I know Dr. Bill Hewitt down in the Everglades has, because when you go in Everglades National Park and stuff, they kind of like, what are you doing here kind of thing. They have pulled him over, questioning what he's doing out there, because he's got, a whole bunch of equipment. He's driving around at night. And of course, they're suspicious of everybody out there. And as far as us, though, Mike, we had something. What was that? Somebody, where was that at? That we had?
I was trying to think about which one you were talking about. I know I got ran out of a place before.
Yeah, but I mean, you got in a kind of an altercation with a ranger or something. What was that?
It was two
Oh,
officers.
Cold Creek. Remember the guy
Oh,
with the dog?
Dudley Do Right.
Oh.
Gotcha.
Totally do right.
That was because of my dog.
Yes. But typically, like in the Green Swamp, you never see any. I've never seen anybody out there, like any kind of park ranger, nothing.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever see any out there. Oh, but on my trail cam,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So one of our active research areas, it's of course undisclosed, because we have some stuff going on there. It's Mike's spot, and we go out there and check things out, and we do stuff. So we have I have a couple trail cams out there because I want to see what's walking in that area. Because I want to eliminate, if there's a bunch of people walking in there, I just want to make sure that I just want to see who's in there, right? So on my trail cam a couple months ago, I caught 2 sheriff officers with a canine dog walking in our area. And it's like, why? Why? What are they doing out here? And the sheriff was like looking over his shoulder, and he was standing in front of my trail cam. He didn't even see it.
He never saw it.
It was crazy, And I'm like, oh my God, look at this. 2 sheriff officers and a canine dog are in our area. So.
And there's nothing back
Yeah,
there. It's 8,700 acre preserve back there. There's nothing back there. So it was weird. I think they must have been chasing someone that ran down one of the trails back there or something, because it's not super easy to get to.
Yeah, but I didn't get him on the trail cams. So
That's
I don't
true.
know. Don't know what that was.
Maybe in a different direction. Maybe they're trying to cut them off. So maybe, I don't know.
I don't
Kind
know.
of strange. We had we were on the side of the road, and we were deep in the woods, off on the back road, and we had a parabolic mic. We're listening for stuff, and I seen some headlights coming down the road. I'm like, okay, who the hell is this? It's like 1 o'clock in the morning, and it gets closer, and I can see that it's a white truck. And I said, okay, this is the game warden. He pulls up, he gets off his truck, and he walks over to us. He's like, "What are you guys doing out here?" I said, "Yeah, we're just listening to the sounds of nature." And he got this big old smile on his face. He goes, "You guys hear anything that you're not supposed to hear?" You know, no, like what? And he just
Like
kind of
what?
shrugged his shoulders, you know. And I said, "No, we're just out here,
They're probably
listening,
used to it
listening."
now. I'm sure they're
Oh
used to
yeah,
Bigfooters going out quite a bit.
But he's fishing for information now,
Mhm.
so
and then he asked if anybody else was out there, and I'm just like, "Yeah, I saw some guys down there with flashlights," and then he took off. So after that, that's what I started doing now. When they approached me, yeah, there's some guys with flashlights that went that way. And I'll go looking for them. So,
We'll remember that one. Okay. Oh, geez.
so I know you don't want to disclose your research areas, but what areas can you talk about that you go to?
the Green Swamp. We go to some areas outside of Tampa, Hillsborough County. I've been to Myakka State Park, Myakka State Forest, Ocala National
Everglades.
Everglades,
Everglades.
Everglades, Ocala National Forest, and Apalachicola Forest. So, so we go. You know, it just we just have a feeling about a place. It's like, okay, where we want to go this week. Kind of thing. And it's like, oh, let's go to the Green Swamp. We haven't been there in a while. Or let's go to Richland and check that out. We've never driven back there. Or let's go to blah, blah, blah.
We probably have what, like 7 or 8 different research areas that we frequent all the time.
Yes. We kind of make the rounds, check it out, see if there's anything new, if anything's changed.
Also by the water level too.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, it depends on the time of year. Like when it's hot, now you want to look for places that have a lot of water, like the swamps or a river or something.
And canopied trees.
Yeah. So right now,
not under the sun. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, I won't even go out during the summertime. It's just like you'll die out
We
there.
go out real
really
early, usually around by 7:30.
Well, what I mean by going out is like going out and staying 2-3 days.
Oh,
I
no.
won't do it.
Yeah.
No, we're out of
Not this
court,
time of year.
maybe half a
Yeah.
day max.
10-15 years ago, I would do it, but man, not now.
Yeah.
No. Someone made a comment about how they don't even like going hiking anymore. I'm like, I'm almost done with tent camping. I'm not even lying. I'd just rather get a hotel in the area.
Well, I'll tell you what, you haven't lived until it's 90, 91, 92 outside air temperature, but when you get back into that swamp where we're at, the humidity goes up to about 90%. You can't do nothing. You're dangerous sweating and dehydration levels. It can get you quick. It can get you sick quick.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got some swampy areas here in Texas, and people don't realize that we've got some pretty good swamps here. And man, you're right. It is murky. I mean, you can almost breathe in the moisture.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it gets nasty real quick.
Yeah.
Breathe in the mosquitoes.
And the mosquitoes.
Yeah. Do you guys have ticks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, I can't stand ticks. That's another reason why I don't go out in the summertime. Because man, you walk in the brush 5 feet, you got ticks all over you. I stay out of that.
Oh yeah, because I just got a tick
Green swamp
last
loaded with
weekend. Last weekend, a little tick was on my neck, so I'm on antibiotics right now.
Oh, are you really?
Mhm.
Okay. Did you get sick at all, or you just precaution?
No precaution
Okay, good. That's good.
because of where it was at. It was like right here on my, where my artery is or whatever, and I was like, it was really itchy, and it got pretty big, like swelled up to like the size of a quarter.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to get a prescription. So
I thought you were saying the tick swelled up to the size of a quarter. I was like, good Lord,
Yeah.
how long did you leave him on there?
No, he wasn't on that long. I was only out, but we were out like 3.5 hours that day. So he wasn't on that long, but I guess where it was at, it made, a big impact. So
Guess the mosquitoes didn't finish you off, so
I
you
know.
know it was trying to do it
Takes
for
well.
you.
I know, like, yeah, like we don't have enough mosquitoes to deal with. And I had to use my mosquito netting this weekend because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I can't stand the mosquitoes around my ears. They're just buzzing around.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to take a picture and I see like 100 of them buzzing around my face. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. So I have to use the mosquito netting. And that helps tremendously. So.
So, what kind of? Well, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. But I was going to ask, do you do any kind of specific techniques when you go out there? When you do any kind of research, anything to draw them in?
What do you think, Mike?
I have more of a few sounds that when I go into my area or any of the areas, but especially the areas that I'm into the most, I always have a couple different sounds that I make that I've heard out there that I relate to as I think they're more of an alert sound, and I just let them know that I'm there. I don't want to. I would want someone to knock on my door before they came walking in my house. So I always try to make it a point to be kind of loud and not sneak up on them.
Right.
Because we've had
Yeah.
a lot of unique things happen back there. A lot of vocalizations, a lot of, especially with me when it's just been me and my son. They love my son, and I've had, which I think they live in groups, and I've had it where I make a sound, my son makes a sound, and then we get responded back to it with a very similar sound, and then we do that. One time we did that for almost 30 minutes, and they went from what sounded like a mile out all the way up to within maybe 30 yards. We had them 30, 40 yards away. Whatever was making that noise was extremely close, so close that it made my son start crying because it was so loud, so close to him. And I'm like, well, you're in the middle of the woods yelling out the things. They wanted to see what you were. So that freaked him out pretty good.
He makes like a cooing kind of sound. So it's very
soothing,
calming, not to me, like non-threatening. It's kind of like right, Mike? You do
it's kind of just like a, but you hear it. It's real deep and it goes through the trees very well. And that's a noise that I've heard out there. And I've been to other areas where we were in one place and we were using a meter, and the meter was going off. The trifold meter was going off, and I made that calming sound, and whatever was making it have that making it go off so much just died. It stopped and it went completely to calm. And that's happened multiple times out there when I make that noise, and it just seems like it's like saying, "Oh, well, I guess he's a good guy. He's one of us, or not one of us, but he's one of the good people, one of the good humans."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the things that I like to do is set out next to my recorders is set out the chem lights. You know, the kind you break and you shake them up and they glow.
Oh,
I've actually those around my recorders. We've gotten some pretty good results out of that. You know, a lot of footsteps, a lot of tree snaps and breaks and growls. So yeah, I think that's really helped us out. Get a lot of good audio. You know, so it's something you should try.
what do you do with glow sticks? What do you do with them?
The glow sticks. I usually hang them. You know, get some fishing line or something and hang them next to my recorders. Maybe not right next to them.
Okay, so they'll go up to it and check it out because it's glowing in the dark. That's good. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe 20, 30 feet away from the recorders.
We'll have to try that.
Like a Bigfoot rave.
There you go.
Yeah.
Hey, and I got that idea from one of my friends. He passed away several years ago here in Texas. He told me he would put them out, and that he actually saw one. Well, his girlfriend, who didn't believe in it, they went out there together, and she actually was the one that saw it and freaked. She freaked out. But she said it was a blue one, and that she put it right next to his face, and so his whole face lit up.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
Yeah, it freaked her out. So after that, she was a believer. So,
wow!
But yeah, and something that I've done only one time that I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it again because I still have the dog whistle. Is a dog whistle.
Mm.
I took it out with me one time. A friend of mine told me to try it out. I took it out, and I was out there with two of my friends, and I blew on it like 4 or 5 times. And man, we got a growl came back at us. It hit us like right in the chest.
Wow!
It did not like that. It did not like that whistle.
Careful, you might get dog man.
Yeah, and that's a possibility too. There's not a lot of dogman sightings in where we mostly do our research in the same as the forest. There's not a lot of dogman sightings there. There's been a couple.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, it is a possibility. Maybe that's what it was, but
That's
I
cool.
think maybe it was still.
We
Yeah,
do
I
have
think
a
maybe
very active area that we gift, a very active gifting area that we've had some really cool things happen.
yeah. And she's asked, "Do you think the color blue makes a difference?" I don't know, but I've thought about that because the when it comes to those chem lights, that blue has a different kind of glow or hue to it than the other colors, and it certainly would attract me. I think out of all the colors, the blue one would. So I'm not sure if the color
Well,
blue makes a difference.
yeah, because
I could see.
even there's people who gift like Ruby, people like her or other people who they put out blue marbles, they put out blue crystals or blue rocks because it seems like I don't know, it seems like
I'd heard something about blue, so I always try to
yeah,
include blue. I usually do like geodes and stones, sage, things like that, and I always have blue in there and white and black, because I've heard of all of them. So let's do it all.
Yeah,
yeah. So I guess people have had success with blue marbles, blue crystals, blue blah blah blah. We've even tried. I have a singing bowl that sometimes I'll play out there at night, like in the green swamp or something. I'll just play the singing bowls, and or I have some like chimes and stuff like that, just to, you know, just something maybe that they've never heard before that they may be curious about. So, and the sound of the singing bowls really carries.
Her
And
yeah.
singing bowl really carries.
yeah,
It hurts my ear.
Mine's a baby.
yes, I have a pretty.
Mike starts growling.
We don't. You really don't have to go out to the woods and make a bunch of knocks and hoops and draw attention because they know you're there. If they're around, it's just like Mike said, you're walking in their living room. Maybe a courtesy whoop, give them a heads up, but beyond that, it's just kind of. I feel like you're wasting time or acting a fool and probably
Yeah.
looking at you like
We
an
don't
idiot.
do tree knocks. I mean, no, we don't do anything really except for, Mike makes his cooing sound. But other than that, we don't do the tree knocks. We don't do the house typically. We don't
We talk, we laugh,
we talk, we
we
laugh.
sing. I'm
Mhm.
usually singing Elvis. So
I like to
Whatever will
think,
draw
I like
them
to think
in.
the ones
Yeah.
in the active area. I like to think that they like me, and because I'm goofy.
Mhm.
That's what I
uh-huh.
think. I'm like entertainment. That's what at least I feel like when I'm in the area.
For sure.
Or bait, one or the other.
Yeah, one of the two.
Oh, it's the guy that poops in the woods all the time.
Yeah, right. Hey, that's the poop guy. Mhm.
Right in our living room.
Yeah, there was this one time, Mike, remember when we took Jeff Freeman out with the birds?
Oh yeah, that was insane.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
Who hasn't got the talk?
Ruby.
Oh, I
Chris?
talked.
She wasn't there.
I wasn't there.
She wasn't
Yeah.
there.
Well, I've got the audio. I was actually cleaning it up yesterday.
Oh,
Matter
you
of fact,
do? You have the audio. Okay.
'cause I had my recorder going during that, and then I actually went back to Jeff Freeze and kind of pulled some of his because he had a podcast and he talked about it a little bit on his podcast. So I'm going to be talking about that later on at Grizzlies and my podcast at 9 tonight. A little more detail, but yeah, it was pretty cool. Joe, we were walking. Mike and I were kind of out a little in front of Marie and Jeff, and we're kind of exploring this new area that is part of Mike's area, but just a little further off to the side. And we got to some spots where we were seeing some weird things, just structures or weird branches that just didn't make sense, upside down. And then also we started getting all these crows, and you can hear them. They were kind of coming up, and they got to the point where there's probably about 4 or 5 of them circling us. and they just got louder and louder until they're circling right over us. And next thing you know, there's a red-shouldered hawk comes and joins them. I mean, right over us. And we were in a pretty thick canopy, but they were just above the trees. And
There's also barred owls.
yeah, right after all that, they kind of died down. And Mike made a whoop, and they all stopped. And then barred owls started, and it sounded like 2 or 3 different barred owls. And one of them sounded like not really a barred owl. It sounded like a really rough, either super old one that's just not that good, or something pretending to be a barred owl. That's what it kind of sounds like.
Mhm.
One is real clear and it sounds like a real barred owl. The other one is not.
Jeff-
But that was really
Jeff's
interesting.
Jeff's guy found that it was two totally different frequencies. The one that we said didn't sound like a real owl was a total different frequency than one of the other ones, and he like compared it to different barred owl sounds. One of them was matching up to other barred owls. The other one wasn't. Completely different frequencies.
You look at it on the spectrogram. I've done the same thing, and he's right. They don't line up because it creates like a visual for it, and they just don't look the same. So it is interesting. But the what was really cool is the part where Mike makes a big whoop, like a real loud whoop, kind of like an announcement, and the birds just instantly stopped.
Everything stopped.
It just went completely silent.
It all started quick. It just exploded with all these birds, and we're like, "What is
And we're like,
this?"
what's going on? Did we just
And
walk
then it
into a
just
portal or
stopped.
something?
He
It
made
was
the
weird.
noise. He made the vocalization, and it all stopped immediately. And it's like,
It was
wow.
like they said, "Oh, that's just our buddy."
Mhm.
I just sent you something, Marie. It's an owl, and then you hear something that sounds like trying to mimic an owl. So when you get a chance, listen to that and tell me what you think about that. And then you can share it with these guys too, of course.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I want to know what you guys think about that. It was actually taken in the very active area
Mhm.
by one of my buddies named Kimbo. So give Kimbo all the credit for that when you listen to it.
Yeah, because they impersonate barred owls. They impersonate coyotes. So
We think they say hey. We've heard
yeah,
hey.
we've heard them say hey. We've Ruby and I were out in the green swamp, and we heard something say hey, and we're like, "Did you hear that?" And she heard it too, and it was like way off in the tree somewhere. But we've heard that before out there.
Yeah.
So, and I've read other reports of people hearing them say hey.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So my friend John here wants to know, what instruments do you use to measure frequency? Do you guys have any kind of equipment to measure frequency or to?
Don't really measure.
No.
We record and we look at the spectrograms like in a visual scale, almost looking like waveforms. Everybody knows what music looks like when it makes a waveform. It's a similar thing to that, but it's a little different. But there's really no measurements going on. It's patterns. You'll see, like when a hoot is done and the owls will roll their R's, kind of almost like a Spanish thing. They will have a frequency pattern, and they'll do the same pattern over and over. And then when there's other ones that don't make that same pattern, it makes you wonder what it is, because there you'll see the frequencies at a deeper, like lower level frequency, like 40, 50, 60 hertz, and then you'll see some that are higher, but you can actually measure it instead of the standard waveform with the spectrogram. You can actually see it.
I have an RF meter that I kind of got out of the habit of taking, but
Like a field, a tri-field.
yeah. And then so like when you're under what is it, the power lines, whew, you don't want to be anywhere near those.
Yeah, the radio.
They really go off. But usually there's only been one area to me that was real interesting, and it was just it just had a real calm feeling about it. But mine went up there, and then there was an arch that was actually pinned down, and this is the only one that it showed on. Like I said, I got out of the habit of bringing it. I got to get back into it, but it was registering like 6 to 7, and then when I held it in that arch, it went up to like 15. And then as I walked away from it, it went back down, and I would walk back up, and it would go up, and then. But
Crazy.
Yeah, we've had some weird radio frequency spikes and stuff like that in the green swamp, and there's some weird stuff going on out there. We don't know what's causing the radio frequency. I mean, there's no microwaves around. We're in the swamp, for God's sakes. There's it just doesn't make sense why that's happening at times out there. So,
Have you guys ever?
do you want to hear something funny? And I know these guys have heard it a million times, but I'm just going to say it just because I thought about it. So twice when I was out in the green swamp, 2 different places, 2 different times, I was walking up to an X structure,
Mm-hmm.
and my phone called one of my ex-boyfriends.
Her locked phone.
My locked, password protected phone called one of my ex-boyfriends when I was walking up to a X structure. And that happened twice, 2 different occasions, and we captured it on video.
And 2 different
Oh,
ex-boyfriends.
2 different ex-boyfriends, 2 different
Hmm.
X structures.
That's funny. Yeah.
Crazy.
So let me ask you this: do you think that there is paranormal stuff that goes on out in the swamps, out in the woods, out in the
Yeah.
forest?
100%.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, see, and that's what I think too. And I actually think that a lot more goes on than what people think,
Oh, yeah.
and that they lump it in with Bigfoot.
Yes.
Whether you're hearing footsteps or voices or
Mhm.
having strange readings on some of your equipment, I think that there is a lot of paranormal stuff that goes on out there, and that
Yes.
people that are strictly Bigfooters are going to be like, "Oh, Bigfoot does all of this," And I'm not saying Bigfoot doesn't, but I don't think everything out there that happens is Bigfoot. I think there is paranormal stuff out there also.
But we don't know. I mean, it's possible that these creatures have some kind of abilities that to us would be supernatural abilities. You know, they say they cloak. Well, that would be a supernatural ability. And people see orbs in the woods. I've seen orbs in the woods.
That turned into a lightning bug afterwards.
Yeah, that turned into it went from a basketball sized orb that turned into a teeny tiny green, what looked like a firefly. Yeah, I mean, explain that. We don't know.
Or people have
It could
seen
be
these orbs.
associated with them, but we don't know, and we're not going to say oh, this is Bigfoot, because we don't do that. We just present the evidence, or we present whatever it is we find out there, and because we can't discount things. We can't say, oh no, that has nothing to do with Bigfoot, because we don't know. Nobody knows for sure.
Yeah, we're still trying to prove Bigfoot, right?
Correct.
And that's what I tell everybody else. Let's prove this creature exists, and then we'll work on everything else.
Correct. Yeah. So
with that being said, too, I want to ask you guys another question. You have all this disclosure coming out with the government. Do you think Bigfoot is far behind?
No,
It's got to happen eventually.
it's all tied to it.
It's got to come out. It's got to come out eventually. I don't think it's too far away.
There's too many stories of them covering stuff up, just like they used to cover up UFOs. When there is a Bigfoot or even Dogman or anything like that, you hear they come and clean it up, like the LBL, for example.
Right. Yeah. Oh, well, here in the same Houston,
It's like they're running out of the ability to hide things.
Yeah.
Well, the internet and the fast communication around the world and you got teams like us, podcasts, and just people talking about it every day. So information gets around quick.
Well, I'm real careful what I say because I don't want anyone shutting me down.
exactly.
And you know what? I'll tell you this: I'm actually more on the side of the government than what people might think, because you saw how we acted with toilet paper.
Mhm.
So I don't blame the government for not telling us crap. We'll grab all the damn toilet paper we can. So
Soft disclosures. That's what they'll do.
Yeah, because they're never going to confess and say, yeah, we've been covering up, aliens and UFOs since the beginning of time. And they're never going to say that. They're acting like, oh, this is new. Oh, look.
Exactly. So, as a matter of fact, I had this discussion today at work, right, with one of my coworkers. I was like, Congress was actually standing up there acting like they were surprised that funds get allocated to somewhere else without their knowledge.
And they're the ones guilty of it. They know.
Yeah, yeah. So we gave money to them and they use it for something else. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like,
No, really?
everybody knew that, you know. Yeah, the government's paying $900 for a toilet seat, you know. Okay.
It's called laundering.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, they'll never
Well, he-
admit they've been covering up anything.
Oh, hell
So
no.
they're never going to admit that they're covering up any Bigfoot stuff or Sasquatch or whatever.
Well, I mean, think of the liability that could come
It's
with
the liability, absolutely,
Oh, yeah.
and
Mhm.
past things that may have been done.
Right. Yeah. Innocent people could have been hurt because of that.
Mhm.
Yes.
But anyway, so we're at the end of the hour here, believe it or not. What kind of advice would you give to someone who wants to get involved in researching Bigfoot or researching anything really? You know, paranormal stuff.
Well, I mean, I think it helps to join some kind of find a group on Facebook that interests you. You know, if you're into research, then look for a research group, and once you get that's in your area, so that you can meet like-minded people, you can get to know people, and maybe get to go out on investigations with people that you meet. I mean, that's how I met these guys, my team members. You know, it was all from the group. And so, and just start small. You know, like I used to go out by myself all the time. I still go out by myself.
If you want something to happen, go out by yourself a few times.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean you have to go crawling through the woods. Just go to a park and take a walk on a trail. You know, start slow. Take baby steps. Just go out to where you start getting comfortable with being outside and being out in nature and realize, okay, there's not going to be a bear that's coming after me. I'm not going to get attacked by a Florida panther or something. You know, just baby steps. Just take it easy, but go out there and start looking. But like I said, you don't have to go walking through a swamp like we do, or, you know, go through some thick brush. Just walk on a trail, you know, and of course, tell somebody where you're going at all times, but just start. I just started. I didn't know what I was doing. You know, I would, you know, read books or, you know, watch a YouTube video or something, or just being in a group, a Bigfoot research group. You know, you learn what people find, what to look for. You know, like in my group, once a year we have a group outing where we invite anybody in our group to go out with us, like to the Green Swamp or something. We just do a group investigation because the majority of those people have never been outside. So it gives them the opportunity to go out, walk with us, and learn. So it's all great, but you know, that's my recommendation. Anybody else?
I'd say be open-minded.
Yes.
If anything, you can't be closed-minded because there's a lot we don't understand, and there's a reason why. If it was just a big ape walking around out there, we would have already caught it. I mean, there's something else to this.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a big one. Be open-minded.
Yes, definitely. Good point.
Invest in good bug spray.
That too. That's a big one. Do not forget the bug spray.
Oh, Marty, come on. You're out there all the time.
Oh,
Yeah.
He says, which
Well, when we go down there to do investigation, we'll have to reach out to you and you can go out with us, okay?
yeah.
Miss Nano Boss.
no, not
Yeah.
the box. Well, cool beans, guys. I appreciate you guys coming on the show, man. You guys are great. You guys talk
Thank
a
you
lot.
for having us.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like it when I can just sit back and just let you guys take over. Like, no breath.
We like to talk, so, you know,
Yeah, good.
because we have so
Yeah,
many
that's what I was
stories. We have so many experiences. We've seen all kinds of stuff. So, you know,
Yeah, she says, please do. I love that.
there you go.
Cool, man.
There you go, girl.
Yeah, tell people where they can find your pages too in your group.
Yes. So on Facebook, it's the Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group. on Facebook. I mean, on YouTube, it's also the same thing, Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research Group. And there we have short little research videos. You know, we don't video ourselves for 30, 45 minutes, an hour, just walking through the bushes or the woods. You know, I like to film short videos, 1 to 2 minutes long tops, of something we find really interesting. You know, I don't want to bore people. It's like, get to the point, look what we found. This is weird. Take a look at this, you know. And then we have a website, which is midfloridabigfoot.com. And there you can read our bios. You can look at the research gallery. You can see all the weird things that we have found. And of course, we have a press media section where you can see and you can listen to past episodes of podcasts, stuff like that. And we have a blog where I write, you know, articles about safety or Bigfoot or, you know, heat stroke versus heat exhaustion or whatever. So it's just a, you know, good place to check us out. If anybody's doesn't know anything about us, check out our website and get to know us. And then, you know, you can join us on Facebook. I'd love to have you. And because we're all about research, collaborating, you know, that's what it's about.
Right. Yeah, man, me too. I love collaborating. I love, you know, giving out, you know, suggestions. I love taking suggestions, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. Well, cool beans, guys. Let's end this show. And like I said, thanks you guys for joining, and I really do appreciate it. If you guys have anything you want me to share, man, tag me in it or post it in my group. I think you're in my Facebook group. Yeah,
Yes.
post it in there.
Yes.
Yeah, post whatever you want to post, guys. You're welcome to do that.
Perfect.
Thank you.
And
thank you very much, Joe. It's been great.
And thank you for all the
Thanks,
nice
Joe.
hold on.